All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. So about a week ago, the CEO of the PFL expressed some frustration with Francis Ngannou for not attending now both PFL Africa events, despite being the chairman of PFL Africa. Okay, now this was one of the big points of Francis signing with the PFL in the first place. He wanted investment in MMA in Africa and events in Africa. So fighters from the continent wouldn't feel that they had to leave in order to compete for bigger promotions. But after that statement from Don Davis, Francis Ngannou went on Ariel Helwani's show to explain his side of things. And in my opinion, his answers to these questions were kind of bullshit. Okay? And I think it displays something that I have thought for a while now, and at the time of the UFC split, caught some flack for. But I believe that Francis Ngannou might be one of the biggest divas we have ever seen in professional MMA. I also kind of think that certain things that took place after Francis left the UFC proves that Dana was correct about Francis Ngannou. Now, I know a lot of people just immediately, kind of impulsively, or like a knee-jerk reaction, just side with whoever is opposing the UFC, okay? And I get the idea behind that, but I think that two things can be true at once. You cannot like Dana White or the way he does business, but Francis Ngannou can also be a complete and total diva, and to some extent, a bit of a scumbag, okay? Who is loyal to literally no one, no matter how much they might do for him. So what we're going to do is go over a few parts from this interview and get into why he didn't attend either events, because for me personally, like I said, I think his answer is absolute bullshit and hollow. And if you listen to his answer for why he did not attend the first one and then look at the second event, it really does seem like the PFL tried to do what he wanted, okay, but it still wasn't good enough. I do want to make it clear before we get into it, I do think the PFL is absolute dog shit, okay? And I think Don Davis might be the worst fight promoter in human history. I think they massively overinvested in Francis Ngannou, thinking it would work out for them, trying to capitalize on the UFC's bad press at the time, but it does seem like they have done everything in their power to placate Francis, yet he still fucks them over, okay? The same way he did his old manager, Markel Martin. But either way, let's get into the clips.
Obviously, part of the reason why we connected very recently, we stay in contact, was your name came up recently because PFL finally unveiled PFL Africa, which was a big thing in what you were doing with them and when you came over. First, did you see those events? They've had two now, I believe. And if so, what did you think of them?
Well, they have two now, and it's been going very good. And basically, the second one, I think I was more for the second one. But obviously, I also saw the Don comment, and I think that's your point. That's where you're going to. But the PFL Africa was good. The business part of it is good.
Okay, so for those that may not know what I'm referring to, this is the Don Davis quote. We have it here because I think it's important to get it right. Someone asked him about you not being at the events, and he said, "I'm not going to hide it. I expected him. This is part of his vision. We worked for 2 years. I'm direct and say what I think. I'm disappointed. Disappointed in you not being at the first two events." A lot of people, I guess, thought that you would be there because it was a big thing, and clearly he thought. What is your reaction and response to this?
Jesus Christ, did you guys see that smile? I mean, that is absolutely the smile of a scammer, okay? One of the biggest shit-eating grins I have ever seen in my life, I think. Now, before we get into his answer, because it is a bit on the longer side, and I don't want to just let a clip run for 3 minutes straight or whatever, we do get a bit of a hint there as to why. He says, well, I think I was more for the second one more so than the first. Also, I want to just point out that, like I mentioned in the opening, I think Don Davis is an absolute dummy, okay? And I think that the way the whole PFL thing has gone down was kind of predictable, so I don't feel bad for them necessarily. Francis is about to criticize, though, Don Davis for saying this publicly, and that is a stance you could take, but I do think it's telling that this is now the second promoter to say something negative about Francis publicly, okay? It really seems like they eventually get so frustrated with dealing with him that they just can't hide it anymore. And I think it kind of highlights that the whole situation was not just all Dana White's fault. Okay, it seems like Francis has issues wherever he goes. He's had issues with coaches in France. He had issues with management. He's had issues with now 2 major promoters. Okay, and I'm of the belief that if you have problems wherever the fuck you go, the chances are it isn't everyone else. Do you know what I mean? It seems like you would be the common denominator here, but either way, let's continue.
Well, first, as far as my reaction, I was like, I don't think it was something that he should have bring it out there, right? I mean, at least if it was me, I wouldn't keep it out there. Now, because he get in the position that we have to bring up context, like why didn't I come there? He didn't know why I didn't come, you know? I mean, I've been waiting this for 2 years, and this was the big part of it. So when you're working on something, like when you guys are still working on something, unless you think you have it's off, it's not the thing that you bring it outside, you know. I wasn't okay with something, but it wasn't the thing. I wasn't the one that was going to take it out. For example, like if you want to know what exactly is the reason why I wasn't there, I wasn't very okay with the first PFL Africa event seeming to be like an undercard. Quoting him, we work a lot for that, for the PFL Africa, but I hope PFL Africa debut would have at least have his glory, his moment. But that wasn't my decision, and I wasn't down for it. But I expressed my feeling to them.
So in other words, what you're saying is that first PFL Africa card, I remember it was in mid-July, and the main event was Johnny Eblen versus Costello Van Steenis, Dakota Decheva. Those aren't, part of the PFL Africa movement that you're starting with them, and you wanted it to just be about the African fighters, right?
Exactly.
Oh, okay. So the reason Francis claims he did not attend these events, which keep in mind, please, this is only regarding the first PFL Africa event, okay? Not the one that just happened recently, and not the one that Don Davis was more so criticizing. And that's an important point, and we'll go over why in just a little bit here. But the reason Francis says he would not go to the first PFL Africa event, the branch of the PFL that Francis is the fucking chairman of, okay, was because all of the African fighters were on the undercard, and he wasn't okay with the likes of Johnny Eblen and Dakota Decheva, AJ McKee being the highlight of the PFL's first card in Africa, which to me this hits on a couple of points. Number one is Francis Ngannou doesn't know a fucking thing about promoting fights. He wanted the card to be made up of all African fighters. Now, if you had a UFC event in Africa, you might be able to, at this point, actually pull that off, at least having an African being one half of each bout. But for the PFL, a company that struggles to sell tickets in the first place, okay, you want them to sell out an arena with fucking Nkosi Ndebele or whatever his name is in the main event, right? I would be willing to bet money that the majority of you haven't a fucking clue who these guys are that were on the undercard, with all due respect, okay? And honestly, it's probably better for these guys to have someone like a Johnny Eblen, an AJ McKee, Dakota Decheva at the top of the bill to help bring hype and eyeballs to the event, which would then actually give these fighters from Africa a chance to shine in front of a larger group of people, okay? But even if Francis doesn't think that that's correct, why, as the chairman and the entire reason PFL Africa is happening, would you just ditch the debut event and not at the very least go to show support for those guys on the undercard? It seems very Diva-ish, okay? Do you guys understand what I'm saying to you? He didn't get the card that he wanted exactly, so he just ditches the whole fucking thing when he is quite literally supposed to be the face of this branch of the organization. But either way, let's continue.
Did you share this with them? Did you talk to them about it? Did you tell them this is not what your vision was?
Yes, of course. I mean, we talk about things that we talk about, like a vision. Because we put a lot of accent about like what is the vision, what we want to do, and then every time I will be on the phone with Pete and Jim. Whoosh, again, I don't think those are the people. Those were the people that have the full story, because they've been following up. Like Pete, I talk with Pete maybe 2-3 times a week about only just about PFL Africa, right? So, but as far as Don, we don't talk too much. We never really. Pete is always the guy that is in between us. So, which I think even from his perspective, he wouldn't have said something like that from where we were at. We were like, okay, I don't agree with this. How can we make this work? We are working on it. Like, how can we make it look to what to align our vision together? Because it's a matter of a vision. You know, for me, it's a vision. For me, it's not a business. Even though they are doing a great business out of it, but again, I focus on the vision of the DNA part of it. You know, to be like a PFL African, not just be like another representation of a PFL in Africa, but to be a local organization.
For me, it is a vision for the DNA part of it. Okay, so Francis Ngannou's a fucking eugenicist, okay? That's crazy. Now, I am only kidding, but seriously, I don't understand this guy at all. But it is a vision and not a business. So basically, this guy just wants these organizations to blow money for the sake of it because he wants African-only fighters, or like what the fuck? Okay, I swear, like I said earlier, this guy does not understand fight promotion at all. Also, he's trying to make it seem like, well, Don Davis just doesn't have the full story. The guys that do have the full story, they wouldn't have said anything because they know why I didn't go. Okay, now I would imagine that there is some level of communication between the brass at the PFL. Maybe not, because they are fucking stupid. But I am sure Don Davis knows why, or at the very least knows the stated reason why Francis Ngannou did not attend the first event. Now, what I think is absolutely fucking hilarious is how he's very heavily focused on the first event, which isn't even when Davis ended up criticizing him. Okay, and I feel Francis does this thing, and I do believe it's a pattern. I think we saw it in his UFC negotiations. I think we saw it in his one championship negotiations, and eventually his PFL contract. He always has to put something out there that makes him appear selfless. Now, I want to be clear, okay? I think fighters should be selfish. You are trying to make as much money as possible, but what bothers me is when guys pretend like that is not their goal, and they're trying to do something better to just be nice and kind and selfless and whatever. With the UFC, Francis asked for healthcare for all the fighters and a fighter representative on the board. At one championship, he asked to be able to determine how much his opponent got paid, and at PFL it was the PFL Africa, as well as determining his opponent's pay. Now, I do think it's odd that every organization he had different asks of, okay, but that's besides the point. So it's like he sandwiches his selfish asks with selfless ones to appear like a great guy to the public. Okay, because at the UFC, he also wanted the ability to go in box, which I do believe the UFC is completely vindicated with that decision after seeing how little the PFL has gotten out of Francis. At one championship, he wanted equity in the company, and at the PFL, he wanted the ability to go box, plus he got a $20 million signing bonus. Okay, so I do believe that this is intentional, asking for something very kind, very selfless for everyone else. That's what gets the attention of the public, and again, he should be selfish, but don't pretend like you aren't, and let's stop pretending like this whole thing wasn't about money, okay?
Second event was much more a PFL Africa event, I would say, but you weren't at that one either. How come?
Well, matter of circumstances, and again, we were still working on it, because let me remember this. This is not the first. This is not the only event. PFL Africa is something that is going to run. Is made to be run forever. So as we take the time that it takes to set things up right, then the company he will run properly. So I don't have any problem with that. I don't have any problem going, as long as we get things right and feel comfortable, because I'm going there, stepping forward, put myself in line as a guarantee. So at least I'm gonna make sure for what I'm saying, for what I'm gonna stand by what I'm saying, which is what sometimes some clarification need to be made.
All right, so thank God Helwani asked the follow-up question, which was, okay, well, why not the second event then? Earlier, I said, keep in mind, this reason that he's giving is only for the first event. Now, the reason I said that was because it seems as though the PFL completely and totally fucking caved to Francis Ngannou's request, okay? And for the second event, they did exactly what he wanted, and it still wasn't good enough. The entire main card was made up of African fighters, despite a lot of them being unknown to the broader public, or at the very least, lesser known to the broader public. So, the PFL listened to Francis Ngannou, listened to his request, put literally all African fighters, not just one African per fight. Every single fighter on that card was African, and it still wasn't good enough. Hello? What the fuck are we talking about here? I don't have any problems going as long as we can get things right, because I'm going there stepping forward to put myself in line. You are the fucking chairman, okay? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Also, him saying, well, this won't be the last event is just wild. Like, yeah, bro, no shit. But first for things are kind of huge, and you missed both the first and the second event. You are completely unwilling to promote it, but want the PFL to make it exactly how you want it. Like, it's just an insane level of entitlement, okay? Yeah, I miss my kids' first steps, first words and all that, but it won't be the last time they speak a sentence. Like, it's actually flabbergasting to me that he thinks these are good answers. Okay, I mean, this guy seems like an absolute fucking nightmare to work with, even when people placate and do whatever he wants to make him happy. He's just like, nope. I mentioned it earlier briefly, but his manager, or old manager, Markel Martin, left the agency that he worked for to be able to essentially focus on Francis Ngannou because there was issues with CAA and whatever the fuck, okay? Was with him through the whole UFC negotiations, turned down crazy offers, which would have made him wealthy as well, because he believed in his client. He was with him and facilitated the PFL contract, which was an insane contract, especially in hindsight, for someone like Francis, who doesn't really sell a whole lot of pay-per-views. He negotiated and facilitated the Tyson Fury match and the fucking Anthony Joshua match, and Francis fired him before that last fight happened. A guy who basically helped save your career after you left the UFC, got you all of the deals you wanted, you just ditched, okay? Like, it still wasn't good enough. Like I meant, same with the PFL. It seems to be a pattern, okay? Because we're seeing it again here.
Was there any talk prior to all of this of you fighting on one of these first cards?
Me fighting there?
Yeah, was there any talk, since you're the face of it all?
No. He has never been a plan.
Would you have wanted that?
You have to understand that PFL Africa is a young company. And then as much as we want it to be big, to become big, is not yet at that point. He's young. We didn't give him the time. Yeah, I had like to fight in. If it's PFL Africa, yes, but where we are at, it's really difficult to get to that point.
Okay, now I included this clip because, again, I do want to point out that Francis Ngannou is all about the money, while claiming he's not about the money. Again, fighters should be about the money. However, I don't like when they pretend that they aren't and that they're doing things for something bigger rather than trying to just profit as much as they possibly can, okay? The smirk he gave after that question was asked, and the answer was basically like, no. It's too small, and there is not enough money to pay me to fight in PFL Africa. Even though, if you have this vision that isn't about business and all this bullshit you spewed earlier, okay, why wouldn't you just take a pay cut, go starch some bum in 20 seconds? Do you know what I mean? Because that's all the PFL would have to offer him anyways. It's not like it would be a tough night at the office. And then in that way, you could promote this vision that you have and help elevate and boost the African fighters by bringing more eyeballs to it.
Yeah.
Your last fight for them was in October. Has there been any serious talk this year of you fighting for them?
No, I'm started reach out, send some email for fight and see if what's on the line. But since there's nothing yet, I don't think they have opening for me. So we will wait. We still have time, and yeah. Meanwhile, trying to still try on the Deontay Wilder fight.
So you have one fight left on the deal, right? With them?
Yes.
And is there a term attached to that, meaning like it's either one fight or X amount of years?
No. I mean, yeah, there's a time limit on the term, but which is fine, which is still fine. We good.
Is it far away?
Well, all what you have to know is that we are good.
Okay, now I left that bit in because I think this fully vindicates the UFC with their decision to not let Francis go and box under their banner. Francis signed with the PFL in the first half of 2023, okay? It was May if I'm not mistaken. He's fought for them a single fucking time at the end of last year. Since that time, he's had 2 boxing matches and is looking for a third. Doesn't appear interested even a little bit in fighting again for the PFL. The PFL truly got fucked. Now, again, I think the PFL is retarded and they deserve this, okay? Everyone knew Francis Ngannou did not sell pay-per-views. It was obvious, to me at least, that the reason Dana wouldn't let him go box is because, number 1, like I just said, he doesn't sell pay-per-views, which would make reason number 2, the fact that he wouldn't fight for the UFC again or very often, if at all, not fucking worth it. Okay, why would a promotion spend their promotional dollars to make other people money and then not be able to capitalize on it, right? Based on Francis's response to this whole time limit question, I would imagine it's relatively soon, and he doesn't give a fuck whether or not the PFL gets him a fight. They gave him $20 million as a signing bonus. They essentially just flushed a ton of money down the toilet. And again, I think it's their own fault. I think they were trying to capitalize on the UFC's bad press and overestimated how much people actually cared about Francis Ngannou. So they thought they were more so buying a fuck ton of good publicity rather than just acquiring a fighter, and it bit them in the ass, okay? Which I do find absolutely fucking hilarious. But yeah, I think Francis Ngannou is a diva. I think he has a pattern of that kind of behavior. If he doesn't get everything he wants down to a T, he just won't participate, even in a company he's the fucking chairman of. And when people do placate him and bend over backwards, give him exactly what he wants, he fucks him in the ass, okay? So anyways, guys, that's it. I just wanted to get this off my chest because I've thought this for a while now, and I think there's more evidence for it which justifies my opinion, and maybe I won't get shit on so much for this take as I did the last time, okay? Anyways, guys, that's it. Like, subscribe, all that good shit. I'll see you with the next one. Bye-bye.